Hey guys, welcome to Ultimate 3D Prints. My name is Ricardo. I'm gonna make a video on the Ender 5 Plus because there's like a handful of videos showing what to do once you assemble it and how to get it printed correctly. I had a few drawbacks that pushed me back like an hour or two, staying up till 3 a.m. trying to troubleshoot. And I just thought I'd make a video to save someone else the trouble. Your printer's not broken. It just needs to be tuned and calibrated, and that's good stuff. So I'm gonna go over everything I did the moment I put it together, the moment I put all these Allen screws together, and everything I did after that. So first things first, the book doesn't tell you. Online books, the online videos on YouTube from Creality don't really tell you. They show you a video on how to do it like really quickly. So I'm gonna take it a few steps slower than that. So when you first get it, your extruder is gonna be up here, and depending on how you assembled your plate, your bed, it's gonna be sitting on these rails. Right, they look like little screws, so really long screws. And the thing is, if your bed is not completely level with this bar, who cares about the ground? The printer could be sitting at a 10-degree angle, but if this bed's not parallel exactly with this bar, you're gonna have problems. And the problem I'm talking about is if this side is a little bit higher than this side, then what's gonna happen is when the printer moves left and right, the tip's gonna hit the glass and crack or scratch it, and it's gonna be in the air. Sorry, on this side. I'm making a little time lapse. I'm printing a Ferrari right now. I've not had a problem with this printer since I freaking fixed everything I'm about to tell you about, and I'm really excited with this printer. It's currently almost 1 a.m. So the thing is, with the level, before you turn it on and go into level mode, the motors are gonna do this thing where they don't know where the top of this is. What they do is they use the BLTOUCH to know how far it is from the nozzle, but you can't base yourself on that the first time you turn this on. So what you need to do, what I did, you see that screw tip? There's 2 screw tips, one on each side. What I did, I found the fastest thing to do. Oh, man, I can't do it while it's printing. But what I did was I put the tape measure up to the brass right here, and what I did is I measured from here to the top of the screw right there. And basically, let's say it said it was 1 inch over here, so I went to the brass over here and I measured from the tip of it to the tip of the screw, and I made it also 1 inch, so exactly 1 inch. I ordered a caliper, but this part doesn't need to be super precise because you can further level it with these screws right here on all the 4 corners. So once you do that, if you don't do that, you're gonna risk your nozzle hitting parts of the glass, because your BLTOUCH can level over here or in the middle, but let's say in the back it's higher, then you're gonna be messed up that way. So basically, once you level these 2 screws, once you make sure they're the same height from that brass to tip, the brass is the bed and the screw is the whole frame. Once you do that, you go into the settings. I can't do it right now, so I probably should have waited till I finished the print, but I'm so excited. You go into settings, and then you go into level. What it's gonna do is it's gonna home. So it's gonna turn left, hit this stop, and then it's gonna go back and hit this stop. After it knows where it is on the bed, it's gonna go back to the middle, and the bed's gonna move down just maybe a 1/2 inch, and then it's gonna rise all the way till it hits that little tip that extends down for the BLTOUCH. What happens there is it's trying to determine how far the bed is from the BLTOUCH or the nozzle. One thing I ran into was the BLTOUCH wasn't engaging, and the only thing I had done to the unit before I turned it on was I changed the board here. So the stock board, I heard it's really loud, and I had this in my bedroom, and I didn't want it to be loud. And if you hear this, if you hear how quiet these motors are, it's thanks to that silent board. That's the loudest it gets, honestly. Anyways, I sleep like a baby with that on. The stock board, it looks like this. This was all I changed. The new board is black, this one's green. But basically the new board makes this one's, the printer silent, the motors. One thing I had a problem with was this BLTOUCH sensor. If you see these pins right here, on the picture I took, it was actually at the second to top one, but in my picture I thought it was at the top. So I had a problem there, so be careful where that BLTOUCH goes. BLTOUCH goes here, not here. So be very careful where you put that, because that's one of the most important parts of the 3D printer. Other than that, the BLTOUCH, once I fixed that, I moved it one pin down. I had no problems with the BLTOUCH. BLTOUCH sensor went down, bed started rising. Once it touched the sensor, it stopped, because you don't want to keep going up and hitting the nozzle. After it did that, what you got to do is it gives you an option to use aux leveling, AUX leveling. So what that does, it gives you 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what you do is you basically level it from the middle, and then either the left or right in the front, or in the left and right in the back. So basically what you do is it gets really close to the nozzle, like a lot closer than the BLTOUCH, and basically you grab a piece of paper. Here, I got a piece of paper right here just for this. You grab a piece of paper and you put it right under the nozzle, in between the nozzle and the bed, like that. And basically once it's under the nozzle, all you gotta do is tighten or loosen these screws, I guess what you call them, until each corner, or you're gonna start in the middle, until it's barely grabbing the paper. And I mean, like, it's too tight if you can't pull the paper smoothly, and it's too loose if if the paper just slips out and you don't feel the nozzle at all. The sweet spot is right where it catches and it lets go at the same time. So it's basically like you're holding a piece of paper with your finger just tightly enough for someone else to pull it. That's what you're going for in the tightness. So you're gonna do that in the middle, you're gonna do that in the corners, and basically this height setting will level the bed, because you're leaving a tiny little gap, that paper width gap, on all the corners of the bed. But remember to do it in the back too. Don't forget the back if you just do the front, because then the back won't be level, it might be lower or higher. And this is forgiving because, like I said, with the tape measure, it's not as precise like it's a caliper. So basically this gives you about a 1/4 inch of wiggle room. So once the bed is level, one other thing you need to take in consideration is it's called a Z-axis offset. So Z-axis is up and down, XY is left, right, forward, and backward. So the ZX offset is basically calibration, I would say. It's for the nozzle to know exactly where to print above the bed. Because remember, we just made a gap between the nozzle and the bed. We didn't tell it where exactly on the Z-axis to print. So basically, when you go into the Z-axis, when you're leveling, it gives you an option. The Z-axis is on the left. When you home that, it's gonna go to the point where it starts printing. If it's too far off the bed, what will happen is when it starts printing, the PLA or whatever material you're using is just gonna go into the air, because it solidifies really fast because of these fans. 3D printing is awesome because it can actually print in really steep angles without any support material. And I've noticed mine prints up to 60 degrees in the air with no support material, and which is pretty cool. So I just took a video, a close-up, so you can see how thin it does each layer. So basically, when you do that little Z offset that I was talking about, you want that nozzle to be the same height almost as the layer height. So you're going to be testing out maybe 1 or 2 prints, make them small. I would get on Cura, but you can use the stock ones that come with the SD card. Just go ahead and start the print right after you level the bed. And you're either going to notice that the nozzle's in the air or it's too close to the glass. So basically, once it starts printing, let's say it's in the air, go to your Z offset, lower it a few centimeters. It's going to go by 0.01 centimeters, so it'll take a while for it to go low. That's just for precision. You want it just to be right above the glass. And once it's printing, if you see that it's making dashes and it looks like it's touching the glass, go ahead and put the Z offset up. And if you notice that it's coming out as string or it's coming out inconsistently, like not giving you good lines, then you might be too high. So you got to be at that sweet spot where you're not too close to the glass or too high to the air. But you want it the same height as the layer height, all the way when it goes left and right and forward and backward. If you leveled your bed right, you'll notice that the nozzle won't get closer or farther from the bed no matter what corner of the bed you're printing on. Right now I'm fairly certain that my bed is very level because I took my time. It's going to take about 15 minutes for you to level it, so don't try to rush it in a minute because or else your prints won't look good. Mine's I'm just ordered a caliper. I'm gonna go ahead and go on Cura and go ahead and a lot of these are supports, so they look like junk because my supports are printed really quickly because no one ever sees them. I'm gonna go ahead and go on Cura and make sure I'm gonna print something out, but that's like 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters or 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. And what I'm gonna do, oh, that's my time lapse. Oh shit, I moved it. Wow. See, my prints don't fail, but like I do things that fail outside the prints because I'm very careful with my settings. My next video is going to go over supports and infill. I just noticed that this car model I downloaded off Thingiverse is the inside is not hollow, so I just went out and I just came back and I just noticed that it's literally doing an infill for the whole print. So I should have turned infill off and made the layered thickness on the walls a little thicker, so it could have been hollow, but that's my fault, you know. See, my fails aren't like the prints like looking ugly, because even this failed print, that I guess you could call it failed. The problem was the supports, because the actual, wow, I didn't like it anyways, but the actual problem with it was the supports. I couldn't get the supports off the face. The rest of the model looked exquisite, like professional almost, you know, like something you would buy at the store. It's just the supports. I still was getting the hang of it. My support, what's it called? Support interface was too close or too thick, and I couldn't take it off parts of the print, and it took his chin and his nose with it. But that's part of like the test, you know, like this isn't a real model I'm gonna display. This is just a test. I wanted to see how it does with the overhangs, with small details, and the detail, oh my god, the detail is perfect. Like it goes down to the layers. Each layer is perfect. That's how you know your bed's level. All your straight lines are straight, nothing's at an angle. But yeah, my fail, I guess you would say, is the supports. The supports, I wish Cura had like a better option for supports, because the supports just take so long to come off. So I basically increased the distance between the support interface and the model, and that fixed my problem. And I made the interface thicker so it comes off easier. It doesn't stay with the model. So you can just pull it off with the support. It has a good bond with the support, not the model. But yeah, I wanted to display this actually. I was gonna put it on a shelf or something, but the fucking face was so fucked up, so I don't really care if this breaks. I'm probably gonna throw it away, but detail is amazing. The problem is just the supports, and like I said, next video I'm gonna go over the supports. There's a few videos, but they're a little confusing when they're talking about support material. Man, perfect. Makes me want to print a Mandalorian helmet almost. But anyways, I guess that's it for this video. And we just went over a few things that I didn't like about the instruction manual that Ender the Creality gives you. We went over the bed leveling. We went over Z offset, the exact distance from the nozzle to the bed, not the level. The leveling was the first part. Z offset was the second part. I went over the knobs during the leveling. And yeah, when you start printing, you're gonna want those lines like this. It does a straight. This is called a primer. So basically, it does a line forward and then a line backward, and it makes your print line. It's supposed to look like this. So if you're getting dashes or strings, I think right here is where it's pulled off. But if you're getting dashes or strings everywhere, it's probably because your nozzle's too far from the bed. And if you're seeing little dashes, it's because it's too close. But yeah, there's like it's a little bit fine tuning that goes into it. But yeah, mine just happens to be at negative 2.9, just because I replaced the board, so it might have been calibrated with the old board, so I had to calibrate it with the new board. You only have to do that once, I promise you. Every couple dozen prints, I'll go ahead and level the bed again. But if yours is sitting on something sturdy that never moves and has actual weight on it on both sides, this thing hasn't moved in years, so I trusted that it's not going to move if I bump into it. Especially because this frame is like fucking 80 pounds, man. This thing isn't going anywhere. So next video we'll go over support material, and I want to talk about the spools, because if you don't align your spool correctly, what'll happen is your extruder motor will go bad sooner than it's supposed to, because you gotta have it feeding in a way where it's very light work on the extruder. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. That's how to level a Ender 5 Plus. And any questions, just comment and I'll go ahead and message you back, and I'll put a link to my Instagram in the description. And I went over all my first prints. Then again, like I said, I don't really fail at the detail part. I fail at like not knowing that the prints that come with the SD card don't account for the bed to stay warm the whole print, so this came off. So I was around, so I turned it off the second I started seeing some stringing. That happens when your part or object that you're printing shifts, because it loses adhesion to the bed and it starts printing in the air. So I basically stopped that. I guess you call that a failed print, even though it looks pretty nice. But yeah, guys, my only problems have been support material and bed adhesion. Bed adhesion I've pretty much mastered. It might be hard to take this as a large surface area on the bottom. What I do for my prints, I use a glue stick. And what I do is I go pretty quickly, zigzag where I think it's gonna print. And I've had pretty good luck with that. Most people use blue tape if it's sticking too much with certain materials. But yeah, this 3D printer is awesome. I have big things planned for this. I actually ordered some filament from some other suppliers. This one and another white one I ordered from a different company have really good contrast when you print. What you'll notice a lot with white PLA or PLA Plus is you don't see really any detail in the depth part, because it's so white that you can't really see any shadows on it. And what I mean by that is, let's say there's a hole here in the center. It's really hard to see the darkness of the hole because the whole thing is white. It reflects all color. Like this, for example. This, you should be seeing shadows everywhere, inside the hole and on the sides. But since it's so white, it reflects so much that even the shadows are kind of white. So you don't see much of the detail in the holes. Like this one, it's going to I made this a while ago. It's going for a Luke House model for in the desert, and I painted it, and this is what my final products look like. This is Luke's house. I had someone print this for me. However, see how the bed, you can tell the bed wasn't quite level The back's actually thicker than the front, and this was actually hanging in the air. I had to use a hairdryer to level it. But yeah, you just got to take your time leveling the bed, or things like that happen. But yeah, that's how to level Ender 5 Plus. I hope you found this helpful. I should have probably done the print. Done the tutorial when I wasn't printing anything, but I'm so excited with this printer. It's what, $5.99. It's a good deal, guys. It prints like a $2,000 printer if you have it dialed in right. Other than the silent board, I upgraded this Bowden tube because I heard the original nylon or whatever tube, it catches sometimes inside the inside when there's a filament inside. So I didn't want that to happen with me, so I went ahead and replaced that as well. But everything else is stock. So I hope this helps. Remember that leveling that bed is everything in 3D printing almost. If that bed's not level, you're gonna crack stuff, you're gonna scratch stuff, and your prints won't look good. And I'm sure you want your prints to look good, especially if you're 3D printing. One last thing before I go. Another tip. These metal parts that move up and down, like these metal rods, the screw, and the other metal rods on all four sides, they're gonna squeak. So what I did was I have some lithium grease lying around. What I did was I put grease in between the metal here and the metal there, that hole. The same for the screw, the same for the others. And be generous because it's gonna squeak when you get it like a lot. That should get rid of your squeaking, and it's a badass printer, guys. Really recommend the Ender 5 Plus. If you want more tips and tricks, go ahead and subscribe, leave them a comment. Give me that ganas to go ahead and make another video. And yeah, hope you guys are successful. And let me know if you want any other tips and tricks that you see in my models, in case you're having problems. So yeah, this is Ultimate 3D Prints signing off.